Welcome back, everyone, to the Power Podcast with your hosts, somebody, another person, and maybe someone else. I don't know. I can't really see today, so you know what? Maybe, just maybe, this might actually be telling me that I need to get some better eyes, which is good because today we're going to be talking about ocular powers or powers based on the eyes.
I swear he gets worse every week. Like these intros.
See, the next intro is just going to be. The next intro is just going to be joke going. Yeah, over.
Hi, and then just straight on into like halfway through a conversation. Either that, or I'll just like we'll start talking, and then I'll record, and then halfway through I'll just go. Anyway, guys, so welcome back, and you guys just be like, what?
Great rebooting.
Anyway, so we've been recording for the last 10 minutes, but they don't know that, so let's continue. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, right, so, yeah, today is Ocular Powers. What can you tell me about Ocular Powers? What do you think Ocular Powers means? I'm going to say Alex.
Oh, yeah. Well, basically, any powers in which the eyes play like, the core role in it. Like, if you take out the eyes, then the power ain't going to work. You know, and I would say that this could include, heat vision, laser vision, night vision, and any kind of like projectile ability, the ability to see through walls, just anything that goes through the eyes and needs the eyes in order to operate.
Okay,
that's what I would define it as.
What about you, Sam?
I would agree with Alex, very much so. But because of anime, I'm not certain. You might have to make it very more precise about that.
That's okay, because today we're going to be talking about just that. Not necessarily anime, although because that I am here, it probably will entail talking about it. But either way, we'll get into it. Ocular powers specifically describe a power coming from or about or around the eyes. For instance, as Alex had said, ocular vision, or some kind of an ability that allows the user to see differently or see but better. There are multiple different ways of this working, either that the powers come from the eyes, or that the eyes are affected by the powers, and the powers only affect the eyes. So, today, I thought that instead of actually talking about different concepts of different powers, for the first few minutes, we're actually going to talk about a bundle of different things, and actually see if it's. I guess we'll go back and forth with this, but I personally see that ocular powers are actually kind of interesting because I'm going to argue this, and then obviously you guys can say whatever you'd like. But I'd argue that there's very few powers that couldn't be transferred into ocular powers. For instance, any emission type ability, any power that is not specifically entailed with or towards the ability of the user's body being moved or being any physiologically stronger. For instance, wouldn't really necessarily make sense that the eyes have anything to do with super strength. But in this particular circumstance, I'm going to state that ocular powers could be used for anything, and here is why. Ocular powers, just like any of the other different abilities that we've seen before, are actually a really interesting formation of showing, I guess you could say, evolution. For instance, in a lot of different shows, series, films, anime, whatever you would like to think of, if a character has a different type of eyes that are not what we usually consider as the norm, we can immediately tell that there's something different about them or special about them. For instance, if a werewolf might suddenly have some kind of new type of eyes rather than their original human eyes, showing us that they are more beastly than we first originally see them. And the same with vampires, demons, monsters, having different types of eyes. You then have, obviously, the really obvious ones such as laser visions or heat vision or ocular blasts, where literally something comes from the eyes. But there's also another particular one which is a mixture between the two, where the eyes show a different pattern to show that they have now activated a specific special ability or gift from that specific state. Now, I'm going to say this to you guys, and we can have a discussion here. Do you think that a power, like, say for instance, a character doesn't have super strength, but then suddenly their eyes change colour, and they are now given super strength for the duration of which their eyes are that specific colour, do you think that is an ocular power, or not?
I'm gonna say no. And here is why. I think that that is a side effect of the power itself, and it is not really channeling it through the eye. I mean, with other things, sure, you know, like, you know, when you emit via the eyes, you know, like with laser vision or whatever, like you could definitely say for certain that it is coming through the eyes. Like I said before, I think that, you know, would it still occur if the eyes weren't there? That is my real question. You know, the eyes have to be the thing. Otherwise, it's just, you know, a thing that happens when you activate super strength.
Okay.
But if you take out someone's eyes and they can't change color, and therefore the power is not activated because of that, then I would say, yeah, that would be a form of ocular powers. But if not, then I would draw the line there.
What about you, Sam?
Also, I almost entirely 100% agree with Alex. All you're doing is more or less changing the color of your eyes whenever you put on your super mode. It's like Goku changing his hairstyle whenever he goes into his
and his eyes changing colour as well with
exactly.
Super Saiyan as well.
That's, you wouldn't classify that as an ocular power.
No.
Because that's a side effect of him going into a super strong mode.
Okay.
Yeah, it's difficult because it's like a lot of shows, you know, they're like, if someone has extreme power, they've got like glowing eyes and stuff, and it's like just sort of, you know, it is sort of like saying, aha, the power is activated there, but it's not because of the eyes being activated, is what I'm saying. It's like,
so okay, I'm gonna put this to you then. If we then suddenly took that and then suddenly stated that the eyes were the weakness, would it be ocular powers then? Say for instance,
yeah, I would say from definition, yes, I would say if that's like the thing that stops it being activated, and like,
for instance, if just in case if Sam's a little confused on that one, because I didn't know what you were going to interject with, but it is literally the concept of, again, let's use it from the previous explanation. Their eyes change colour, they get super strength, but then if, say for instance, their eyes are removed or damaged, their super strength ceases or can never be reactivated again.
I think, yeah, that I would consider that an ocular power myself, because that is an integral part of it. You know, it's an odd one because that's not necessarily what I would think of when, you know, thinking of ocular powers. I usually think of it as like an emission or like something that the eyes
has something to do with the eyes directly, like the ability to see better, or the ability to see something in a different way, or even the ability to see maybe esoteric factors like the future or the past, or even like special information like power levels or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what
I would agree.
Yeah,
I would agree that is then an ocular power, because to be honest, I have a few examples mostly revolving around the fact that if they have their eyes removed, their powers don't work.
Yeah,
you know what I was thinking, actually, this is something that I've been thinking of, actually. Like, technically, outside of the Animite Tales, you know, superpower compendium, you know, outside the ocular powers, there is actually another ocular-based power that I think in actually, you know, kind of counts as an ocular power. It's for the basilisk, the ability to stare at someone and paralyze them or kill them.
that is absolutely correct, Alex. That is absolutely correct. If we are basing things off of the categorization of any particular power that comes from or has anything to do with the usage of the eyes, it is then an ocular power. But yeah, absolutely. The ability to stare into a basilisk's eyes and then become petrified or die from petrification, I would definitely consider is absolutely an ocular power. Yeah.
I just can't figure that because it's not necessarily one you think of. Like I think it's like with a lot of ocular powers, you sort of think they're kind of big and showy, and it's kind of obvious because in pop
It's
culture, you've got
funny
Cyclops,
because we
you've got
wouldn't
Batman.
often think about it, but if you really think about it, it is actually one of the earliest usages of ocular powers, because Medusa turning people to stone, whoever sees into her eyes or looks into her
I should
face.
say that wasn't her eyes; that was just her face.
Yeah, well, either way, it
Wasn't
got
necessar-
changed
yeah.
into the. I guess you could say the waters got a little muddied because a lot of people believe that the misconception is that that power comes from her eyes, not from her face. Obviously, the original tale states that it's anyone who looks into her face, but almost every
Gorgon stare.
Yeah, exactly.
Approach.
So, I'd definitely say anything that if you look into their eyes, something happens to you of any sort that isn't just more of a natural reaction, I would state is an ocular power. For instance, like if you look into someone's eyes and feel creeped out, that might not be necessarily a power. But say, for instance, looking into someone's eyes and then suddenly turning into stone, or being petrified, or bursting into flames, that would definitely count as one. Unless if specifically your only power is the ability to make people creeped out when they stare into your eyes, then in that case, maybe you should go back to that power broker and just ask for something better. But
I think we all have that power, though. I mean, if you stare directly into someone's
that's why I said that it's more of a natural ability.
No blinking. Yeah. You can be super, folks. Just stare at people for long periods of time without their consent.
Stare unblinkingly with open, wide eyes. Definitely don't think about how many people might be calling some kind of emergency service or something. But yeah, okay. So we've got those. So we've got the boundaries. We understand roughly what it is and where it would go from what we consider it. So even though that an ocular power is technically something, whether it's something to do with the eyes or coming from the eyes, technically, if they get a special superpower and the eyes are the weakness, that is by definition still technically an ocular power.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've got the eyes are the source.
If the eyes are the source of the power,
yes,
if the eyes, as opposed to being the weakness of the power is the source.
Yeah, because I mean, technically, if it's the source of the power, if the source is destroyed, technically they don't have any. So yeah, that's honestly, Sam, that is a really perfect explanation, and it's a lot shorter than what I had.
Yeah.
So
came to me
nicely succinct.
My eyes.
I just
the source of all my power.
I just saw the correct sentence. So we've got that.
Thank you, Highlander, the source on my bookshelf.
As for anything else, I really think that it's kind of an interesting one because we also think a lot more about the offensive abilities. So obviously we'll get to the offensive abilities in a second. We'll talk a little bit more about the actual usual concepts of what we usually perceive as ocular powers, and then we'll get into the offensive. So obviously the usual ones are just the ability to see better, the ability to see through things, either through X-ray vision or the ability to see through illusions. Have you guys got any other examples of what you might specifically think of vision-based ocular powers?
Oh! This is a really good one, and we have it in the Animite Tales as well. It's the ability to see in every single possible angle, like basically just literally being all-seeing. Like that's not just like improving your sight, but like giving extra directional,
360-degree vision.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
It's like you're essentially an owl at that point. It's just, I love it. It's because you can literally say that you have eyes at the back of your head because, technically you do. You can see through the back of your skull, and basically the eyes still have to be there, like moving, but literally like a magic 8-ball, like in every single direction. And I just think that's cool. I love that.
that is the ability known as Vision Orb. As yes, you generate a 360-degree orb of pure vision, or anything like that. The original concept of that is that at level 3, which is the mandatory perk, you will at that point definitely have X-ray vision. And thanks to Vision Orb, if you take that ability, you will always be able to see 360 degrees around you, because, as you said, you'll be able to see through your own skull perfectly.
I mean, there's always Spectral Vision, which is where you do the Predator thing of going through all the different ones, like thermal,
Motion.
ultraviolet,
Yes.
things like that. The one I was thinking was like where it's from Apollo Justice, where you slow down, you more or less slow down time with your vision, so you can see, like, more like slow down, so you can find a tell on someone.
Well,
in poker.
The funny thing is that there is actually two concepts of that one. There is the concept of, what was it, like, accelerated thought process through sight. So it's the concept of anything that you're currently looking at, you can, whatever you're specifically focusing on, you can speed up your thought processes, meaning that it gives the illusion of time slowing down. That would almost, I don't know. Again, technically, I would count this as almost half and half ocular power, half mental power, only because that, on one hand, if you didn't have the eyesight ability of looking at something and focusing on it, therefore activating the ability, it wouldn't work. But at the same time, it does affect, or it is at least specifically harboring the power to speed up the mind. So, I'd say that as if it was, as long as it was only vision based, I technically would count it as an ocular power.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if it's like, oh, I can touch things and suddenly feel around, and then time slows down, and I can feel more carefully in the deep seated roots and hear at slow speeds, and at that point, it's not special, and at that point, it's just accelerated
At the end
mind.
of the day, if the eyes won't work, then the power is gone. Then it's an ocular power. That's like the line of trade. It's like it has to be through that.
No, it is literally. This is more. That's what it does in the game. It's what's in the GIF, so you know it is specific.
Oh yeah. We're not necessarily disputing that. We're just sort of discussing that, like, sort of going back and forth on it. It's not necessarily saying that one isn't, or is, or whatever. We're just saying, like, the specifications of it. Like, if that were to be counted, it would have to be in this particular category, working that particular way. Yeah, as Sam you said, ultraviolet. As you said, like all of the different spectrums.
Full Predator vision mode.
Yeah, thermal as well. Yeah. I actually
would RoboCop's kind of vision count though? Like, I mean, I don't know.
Hey, he does have a thermograph.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm thinking more like analysis, and you just sort of analyze things. So would that be a brain power as well?
I'd still consider it a brain power, because at that point it is more computers than it is his thing, because he's seeing something and then his mind is mapping out all of the details that his eyes are seeing. It doesn't necessarily mean his eyes are any better, but I'm actually surprised that neither of you guys got this one. I actually genuinely left this one out on the table and no one picked it up, so I assume that I'm going to claim it for myself. The ability to have ocular zooming, the ability to actually, like, see further away or see in smaller and smaller detail, like literally having either a telescope or microscope in the lenses of your own eyes.
Yeah, I did kind of forget that. That's kind of an obvious one there. It's all,
I mean, Superman straight up has that power.
Enhance.
Yeah.
Scorpic Vision. That's the word.
Scorpic Vision. That's it. Yes. So it is that thing of just being able to zoom in or out of certain things and being able to see either very far away or super close up and very tiny small objects, or even molecules, atoms, anything like that. So that I think that's all the vision modes ideas. Personally, I don't know if anyone has this. I think as long as they didn't have negative effects in the same usual way that we would think of, like X-ray mutating cells of anything that we look at, because obviously we've seen those jokes of the Superman causing cancer in multiple people that he X-rays all the time. We've seen those jokes throughout all sorts of different, media.
Yeah.
And it's kinda X-ray because X-ray radiation, but like again, I never assumed that his power was that he shot X-rays out of his eyes. I always assumed that it was some kind of thing that worked in a different sense, like he saw through, different things.
It's just a misnomer.
Yeah.
It's an easy way of explaining it. What a harder concept. Because it's like see-through wall vision. So instead of just it's X-ray vision because everyone knows X-rays see through things.
Yes, yeah.
That's explaining it simply to the masses, even though that's not actually what power is. Yeah,
exactly.
Also, I did have a good one that has a really bad consequence for the user with ocular powers.
We'll get into those because that's what we're going to do. You're going to go around. So the next one is offense. Now, obviously, I'll say this one because this is the most obvious one. The ability to stare at someone and they catch fire. Because everyone has always made that joke when they were kids, or at least specifically my generation did, where it's like someone would stare at someone long enough because that they were hoping that they would explode just from the sheer thought and staring at that one spot for so long that it would catch fire. So combusto vision, or the ability to look at something and make it.
Something, man. I've just thought. I think I know where this is coming from in a kind of way, because you know how you have a magnifying glass and you shine a light through it. You can set fire to things. Do you think that's where it comes from? Because it's like, you've got a lens in your eye, and it just sort of you think that if you just focus a lens on something, it'll catch a light.
I mean, I guess so. Although light doesn't come from your head. It goes into it.
I mean, we don't know about Alex. I've never met them. They might just be
your eyes don't do that?
I don't exude light from my eyeballs like the Terminator.
I think I need to see a doctor, but anyway.
I don't know. That sounds like a pretty cool thing that you should definitely not get them to experiment on you for. So, offensive ocular powers. Do you guys have any?
Oh yeah, of course you got lasers.
Yeah, lasers, ocular lasers.
Eyes. You just get cut through, and it's actually just really good because it's you thinking you get more precision. You kind of you got focusing it. With fire, it's just okay, you see something, it catches a light. That's fine. But this is a precise emission beam that you can use, use just to shoot people's heads off. Fair enough, in various places, but also.
Well, okay. Now I do actually have to stop you there. It's not always precise. Without referencing anything, because we'll come back to references if we have time. But without referencing anything, we have seen people who have the ability to control it. We've also seen people who just literally have powerful blasts that just come out of their face and they can't control it.
Yeah, but I'm talking about when they have got control of their powers.
Yeah, but you said it as almost as if the whole power itself was always defined. You just said lasers. Lasers aren't always definitively. I don't know. No, sorry, go on.
I know. When I think of lasers, I think of a thin beam. I don't feel that it's a spread necessarily.
Okay.
It's basically the range. The actual diameter is the eyeballs themselves. It can't really expand out. That's how I would define laser.
I'm sorry, a laser the size of or the diameter of your actual eyeballs would still be pretty darn big.
No, but not as big. It's doesn't come out like a cone. I always think that fire comes out a cone.
The size of your eyeball. If there was a laser that was coming out of the size of your eyeball, that's actually bigger than most laser pointers.
To be honest, I always assumed it was kind of, is it the... What do you call the wee hole in your eye?
The
iris?
Cornea? The iris?
It's either one of those. I couldn't remember the exact word. I didn't want to be stupid. I always assumed that would be like the size of that, as opposed to the size of your eyeball. Like Superman's is just like the size of the wee iris, cornea, whatever it is. Like that point, as opposed to your full eyeball.
Yeah.
Like precision laser.
Yeah, I mean, Superman does actually have the ability to control it, but obviously Cyclops doesn't. Sam, do you have any offensive ones? We've kind of stolen the easy ones here, the low hanging fruit.
To be honest, all the ones I was going to mention weren't offensive because I didn't actually know any other offensive ones besides those.
I was actually going to say I do have a couple.
Just shoot elements, I guess.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Your eyeballs.
Yeah.
Let's go full Zeus.
I've actually got one that I actually thought was kind of interesting, which was like just purely optic blasts, but it's pressure. Like it's just like a blast of pure condensed pressure, like two little air cannons.
God, that hurt your eyes though, wouldn't it?
Well, again, so technically we're shooting lasers out of them. So again, if we're under the circumstance of the powers don't hurt your eyes, then I'm assuming that neither would those.
That would be so funny though if like you have powers, but like in activating them, both your eyeballs like shot out from the pressure, and it's like, God, why?
Well,
you thought Cyclops had it bad.
Here's where I was going to talk about this because I'm assuming that we've kind of run out of offensive abilities for optic ones that we know of quite easily. Obviously, there's paralysis and petrification. Again, but I guess that could be like the sort of flavor of beam that comes out of them at that point. Most of the time, it's considered beams or whatever I stare at is now affected by this particular thing. Either whatever I stare at is now exploding, whatever I stare at is now on fire, whatever I stare at is suddenly, I don't know, on, on ice. There we go. I don't know, because the thing is with this power is that it's not exactly an easy one to do, because as we established at the beginning, it basically could be put with any power. The ability to copy powers. Oh, my eyes can see anything, and then I can immediately reflect the special qualities of anything that I see and mimic it perfectly, so long as I see it happen. Or my eyes allow me to summon an incredible power from it, but each time that I do, I suddenly have a blistering headache, or even, and quite possibly, this is one of my favourite utility abilities, the ability to hack other people's eyesight and either scramble the eyesight with other people or beings within a specific radius, or actually make them see out of your eyes, or force your eyesight to connect to theirs, therefore you can see through what they're seeing. So eye hacking, I think, is kind of interesting.
That's so weird. You could literally be a virus, just go around phishing scams. It's like, hi, would you like to sign my petition? And then they sign your petition. Right, you're now my slave.
I think it's called ocular telepathic scrambling or ocular telepathic connection. It's basically where the eyes connect in a very weird way. Similar. I think the only reason that's why it's called telepathic connection is because technically there's no other way to explain it. But yeah, either way, it's kind of cool. The ability of the eyes to be able to see and see things faster than the human eye can normally see. Like, for instance, you can't see a bullet go past your face because it's too fast. Having it that, your eyes are so, so capable that they can actually see a bullet go past you or see something move at the speed of sound past you perfectly, catching every single detail or something.
Like, you could have a power where it's like your eyes can't be corrupted by anything. Like, the rest of your body could be shrouded in smoke or darkness or anything, but your eyes, almost like a cartoon, just are perfectly, are just perfectly fine, and you can see through anything as if everything's normal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. Ocular immunity. Yeah, I guess that's also possible.
There's like aura sense with your eyes. Like see people and say, "Oh, they're evil. Oh, they're good." They'll definitely give a homeless man change.
Yeah. I mean,
Goodness sense, more or less, just like being able to see people in their auras.
alignment.
That's a real thing, though, isn't it? Like some people have that. Was it? I don't know, synesthesia or something. Where
Synesthesia. It's more or less associating one sense with another sense, like being able to taste sights or smell sounds or things like that.
oh, this tastes pink.
Oh, like as you said,
that messes me up to hear that.
Like someone's name sounding purple or something.
Oh yeah, it's because I actually gave my name to someone with this quirk, and apparently my name is blue, red, and green, which is some of my favorite colors. So, and it's all kind of jaggedy as well. So I don't know what that says about me. Probably nothing, but
Yeah, definitely don't look into that.
Or like there's the classic Dracula, I look into my eyes and then I control you.
Yeah, hypnosis is obviously a brilliant one, a hypnotic or telepathic mind control through ocular ocular prowess. I'd actually say that there is one really cool thing about ocular powers, which is their weakness.
Rise.
So I think we can all agree that the biggest weakness that we have ever seen with anything to do with your eyes is just the sudden loss of them. Having such a vital power in such a vital area and suddenly losing that ability is not only just suddenly losing a power, but quite literally losing the ability to do something. It's like if someone were to say, "Oh, you have super lungs," and then suddenly nullifying them suddenly halts the ability to breathe. Full stop. Therefore, you start dying. So, obviously, in the extremist version, suddenly not having your eyes doesn't just mean you don't have powers. It also means you don't have the ability to see at all. And in a lot of circumstances, with weaknesses or weak points, destroying them means that nullification is permanent. I don't know. I think that's just really kind of scary to sort of bring up.
This is scary.
This is actually one I mentioned earlier. I think is a good time to bring up. There's a character I saw who had the power to go through time, but only when light touched his eyes. To be able to, more or less, he had to be able to see and see light. They could go backwards in time, like back into himself in the past. Every time he did that, his sight got worse and worse and worse. The point that the very last time he went backwards in time, he lost sight entirely. At that point, he was unable to go backwards in time. He was unable to use his powers because he can no longer see light.
That is scary. Another one to actually go from that is the first ever one that I actually saw with this was there were like 3 special abilities that all of these different people can use. You know what? No, I'm not. I'm just going to drop the pretenses. It's Naruto. Everyone knows this. From their special...
Mine was Charlotte. Just so you know this, great anime. Watch it.
So I've never watched it, and I probably won't. But no, yeah, that's fair enough.
Actually, I should say he had to have both eyes because, as we saw, someone steals his power and loses one of their eyes, and at that point, he can no longer travel backwards in time.
Okay.
He needs both eyes.
So with the ones in Naruto, they have eyes, and it can be that they can have one or both. It doesn't matter. As long as they have one. And they have the first abilities, which allow them to copy other people's abilities, mimic their actions exactly, and also allow them to see someone's movement a few milliseconds or all the way up to, I think, 3 seconds ahead of time, so they can predict their movements by just literally watching them. It also grants them an increased burst of spiritual energy, which actually basically means that they have more power to work with. Later on, you actually find out that they have 3 forbidden abilities. Well, they're supposed to be, but they actually aren't because they're not the 3 forbidden ones. But basically, they have these abilities where if someone goes through a traumatic enough trauma, they unlock this new stage and they can gain the ability to create an illusion that is downright scary and can actually break a person spiritually or mentally. B, they can then summon a black flame that cannot be extinguished unless if the user has decided to do so, or the flame has singed and destroyed the exact object, creature, or being that they have decided that they needed to do. And the final one, which is, in all honesty, really cool visually, but after a while it is just really dumb. The ability to generate a giant spiritual skeleton that just encumbers them around, encompasses them. And it is really powerful, but it is also okay. Why? By the way, before anyone gets upset with me, it's it's because it's based on this. I know that it's supposed to be based off of the 2, if not the 3 storm gods from Japanese mythology, the moon, the sun, and the storm. I know that, yes. And also they're supposed to be based on the different eyes. Basically, all of these 3 powers, the more that the user uses them, the less sight they have, until eventually they go completely blind. And those who have other siblings, they can actually steal their eyes and transplant them, and then they can use these abilities infinitely, as much as they want, because a blood ritual of some kind. But there is 2 other abilities that I'm not going to go into here, but there are 2 other abilities where you can sacrifice the entire sight of one eye permanently, absolutely, just instantly, that eye is now completely blind by using one of these 2 ridiculously powerful abilities. Now, that is an interesting concept because that creates stakes. If a power like that has this moment where if I use this too much, or if I use this, it will mean that I will lose my eyesight. Another particular one was actually the idea of the eyes are so powerful that they're not supposed to be in the they're not supposed to be used too much. And inside of a human's or a mortal's skull, they actually start overheating and burning the flesh inside of their head. Meaning that if they don't stop using them, soon, they could actually either kill themselves or permanently damage themselves to such a horrific extent.
There's nothing I quite like where you could possess people by looking at them.
I mean, that's just interesting enough because obviously, we talk a lot about weaknesses here, but I think this one is probably the one that has the biggest scary factor because it is just terrifying to think it's not only just the power, but a physiological capability has been lost forever.
You lose one of your senses.
Yeah, it's almost scarier than actual death sometimes because your life will be permanently changed.
Mm.
When you do it, and it's you'll have to kind of live with that and adapt to that. And not that being blind is as scary as death really, but it's if you have sight and then you suddenly through using this power, you have to reevaluate everything you do because your life is going to be different. That's
especially if you've gone from a position where your eyes saw more than any other human could ever see, and then suddenly go from that to the other extreme where you can no longer see.
I mean, it's kind of overwhelming, really.
Mm.
It's overstimulation and then understimulation.
Absolutely.
One hell of a character arc, to be honest. But it's in real life, though, I probably wouldn't mess with those abilities because I like looking at things.
Okay, there was one I was going to ask because it's almost the exact reverse of all of this, which is characters. The character in you played Fable.
Yeah.
Which one?
Any of them?
Okay.
Like literally, because this is the only character that's in all three games. Teresa or like Madam Web is another character like this, who actually have lost their eyes but can see more because they can see all possibilities because they no longer have their eyesight. They can predict future events, possible future events. Would that classify as ocular powers?
Yeah,
It's like the exact opposite, considering they don't have eyes but
Kinda
can
like
still see.
They're sort of like negative, sort of like the opposite of powers, because like rather than like losing it, would they gain their powers back if they got their eyes back? Would that be
do
like
they
sort of
lose them if they got their power?
I know.
I guess. Okay, I'm personally going to say. I'm personally going to say
their eyesight. They do specifically lose their eyesight because Madam Web's power transferred to someone with eyesight, and they immediately lose their ability to see.
Did she gain her ability to see though?
Yeah, the ability to kind of see without sight.
Oh, then no.
Yeah,
no.
I mean,
no. I'm gonna personally say this. This is my opinion. I'm gonna consider that as not an ocular power. It's the same. It's the same as like saying like Odin destroys one of his own eyes to gain more power. I'd say personally, I don't feel like that is actually an ocular power. I mean, it's a boost based off of a sacrifice, if anything, at that point, and it just so happened to be that he sacrificed an eye.
I would disagree.
Was it to see the future, to see wisdom or something?
Well,
it's specific to his eye that he sacrificed it.
The thing is, though, regardless of that, I'd still state that, like, if you have the ability to quote unquote see into the future, at that point, the images are being beamed or being sent or apparating inside your head. Because if you originally, according to studies, those who have never seen before don't dream of images, they dream of things that they know. So, for instance, sounds or smells or tastes or feelings. Those are people who have never seen ever. So technically, if and also like studies of people who have started to lose their sight or lost their sight, they say that they since they have had the ability to see, their imaginations are still based roughly within the realms of what they could or can see or originally did see. And just imagining those shapes and colours and different formations. That's according to studies anyway. So by that technicality, I am going to have to say that it's not an ocular power. But
I'm going to have to disagree.
It is a sacrifice of the ocular nature, which then grants a power.
I think we'll have to agree to disagree there because I can definitely.
I straight up disagree.
I want to hear Alex though, because I want to hear the reason.
Give your reason, Alex. Come on,
I want to
show your workings out.
Well, my reason is that if we're going to do it as that is because we don't know the full nature of these powers. I would say that because of the loss of eyesight, it is generating through the eyes, or rather, the lack of eyes. Like that is where the power is coming from. It's not it's not currently in the brain. I'm sure if she was depowered, she may not get her sight back, but she ain't getting any powers without the use of her non-eyes. So I'm thinking. Yeah, I'm saying, I think that is my reasoning for it, and I would count that as an ocular power, but I'm sorry that I'm tearing this podcast apart, but this is the line that I'm drawing right there.
Thank you, Alex.
I think that's a very silly line to draw. You have your opinion, and your opinion is fine. I just don't agree with it. No,
it's doing its one here, Joe.
Based on the parameters that we originally set, I don't feel like I could say that it was, because the original line that we drew right at the beginning was, at the very least, it's if they have a power and then their eyes are removed or damaged, and they suddenly don't work anymore, that's an ocular power. If we're then saying the opposite, technically any and every power is technically an ocular power if you use it by that logic. And here's why that this might seem a little extreme, but here's why I believe that it isn't. If the user loses any particular capability and suddenly they get a new ability or a certain aspect is exponentially increased, we wouldn't state, oh, it's it's because that granted them that. No, it's just that all of the other aspects of their original abilities have to suddenly go into overdrive to, basically pick up the slack. It's based on the usual misconception, or at least the specific urban legend, that hearing, smell, taste, and touch suddenly become a lot more heightened when sight is lost, or any of the other senses are increased when one is removed, or multiple. And again, that may be correct, or it may not be. I can't obviously say. I've never lost any, and I've never had that extensive knowledge. But if we're basing it off of that, technically that would mean a power user of a cosmic level losing their eyesight and then suddenly gaining a new set of powers. Theoretically, that's the cosmic equivalent, and therefore that's why I personally don't feel like it would be.
I can definitely see the reason behind that. I do. Yeah. I do see your reasoning behind that.
It's like in you guys might not know what I'm talking about here, but it's like in Dragon Ball Super. They show off in the previous series that Saiyans, aka the main alien race, have monkey tails, and they basically are like ape-based werewolves. They turn into giant, multi-story sized apes if they see a moon. Yes, it is silly. It is ridiculous. Anyway, so they have that ability, but then in one of the movies later, you actually see one that does not have his tail because it was cut off. But then later on, during a fight, he unleashes the same physiological enhancements without going full ape. In other words, without fully transforming. I think it's less that, oh, he unlocked that because that he didn't have his tail. It's more that his body compensated for the fact that it doesn't have that ability anymore, and therefore gave him the best that it could give him. Turns out that it was possibly a better advantage. That's why I wouldn't consider it an ocular power, because it's an ability that, first of all, doesn't concern the eyes, and second of all, comes from after the eyes are removed and therefore have nothing to do with them. But an ability that's suddenly granted that seems similar to it is merely coincidental at best.
Well, you know who we can truly determine who is right and who is wrong? In the comments of this video! Everyone, popular contest, vote!
Tell us we're right.
Connor, tell me I'm right, and you might get some more XP for your next game.
Oh, don't be that kind of guy, Connor. Trust in me.
Do be that kind of guy, Connor.
I'll get you McDonald's next week.
He's gonna roll up, this week, and he's just gonna get decked out with thousands of XP. He says, "Growth spurt overnight, everybody." I don't know what happened.
I don't know why, but Fletcher suddenly just went up another 5 levels, guys.
Next week it turns out Connor's the only one left. We all died in our sleep.
He just outgrows us and
it's just that moment where Fletch just goes, guys, I don't know what to tell you, but I've suddenly gotten a lot of firearms recently. What do you mean? Welcome to the gun show!
That would be amazing. To be honest, I wouldn't even be mad at that point.
No, to be fair, I know I'm right and you guys are wrong. No, I'm kidding. To be fair, I like that you guys actually have that different standpoint. It's just personally from how we all agreed and established it. I just feel like at that point we're being a bit. If we say that counts, it. I don't know. Personally, based on what the original trio came up with, it felt like it's almost betraying that original.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because I would say that it's not a betrayal. It's just sort of like an inversion on the original concept. So it's like it's sort of still related, but it's like on the other side of the coin. But that's just the line that I draw with
Again,
these things. And
I consider it a sacrificial power, considering that those actually do exist. And I actually was thinking of doing a podcast on that, but to be fair, like touching on it here, technically ocular powers are the perfect explanation for that, I guess.
I mean, yeah, we covered quite a lot in just a short space of time, really. I didn't really think so. I thought we would be going to talk about lasers and things, but no, we're talking about diversity of opinion in the quadrant of powers. That's a very smart.
I guess the last thing that I'll say then is ocular powers specifically. Then, what kind of ocular powers can you think of, or even make up? Just on the spot that might actually be kind of interesting.
All right, this is going to sound weird, but it would be kind of cool to have the Alice in Wonderland power of like crying like actual tears that can be like weaponized. Like instead of like a jet of like heat, it would be a jet of water, and it would be
so Binding of
salty
Isaac.
tear water. Yeah, basically, that would be amazing. Yeah, I mean, that would be so cool, especially if you could, like, level it up and you start shooting blood out of your eyes as well, or like.
Okay, so Alex, I think you need to take your medication. No, so yeah, that's actually pretty cool to be fair.
My way out of my mother's basement. Shut up! You don't know me.
I am so deep.
You've become so numb.
So if you excuse us, Alex is now just going to go sit in the corner and start drawing eyeliner on their eyes with their black ink, and then they're going to listen to 3 Days Grace.
Alex is definitely going to be listening to some Linkin Park, let's be honest.
So Sam, what about you?
Well, I'm not going to go X-ray vision because that's for perverts. Only perverts.
Fair enough.
I don't really know. There's not many powers I'd want to have with ocular powers.
I mean, you can even make up your own.
So no, that's what
I'm trying.
That's what I mean. I'm trying to think of it. Most of them are really bad.
I'll tell you what, do you want me to tell you guys mine? Because I actually have been thinking about this one for the last week and a bit now.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm now going to bring it back to the classic. I'm now going to bring it back to the classic old My Hero Academia reference. My Hero Academia has tons of different really cool quirks, like superpowers. One particular character has the ability of zoom, which is kind of cool, but I'm thinking about a little bit more interesting. I had the idea of calling the power Windows. And I don't know if you guys know where I'm going with this yet.
Oh, it's because it's to see through everything, right? Or
no.
Is the pervert's power again?
No. Okay, so the power is Windows because basically, if they ever got to be a character in that anime, the first time that they'd ever use their powers is they would say, some people say eyes are the windows to the soul, and I guess you could say that mine are, or I guess you could say I am right. As the power that he has is he has two little pocket dimensions inside of his eyes.
Oh!
And when he opens his eyes and activates his quirk, they generate a small amount of odd, ominous substance that then sucks things in to his eyes. At first, the main weakness for this power would be he'd have to close each lid whilst they are holding the amount of stuff inside of said pocket dimension. So, for instance, if he opened his eyes and used this ability and swallowed up some people, some things, some whatever, he'd then have to close both of his eyes, can't see, and then hope that he can get by without using them. Suddenly opening his eyes would then shove those things from his pocket dimensions out into the real world again. Later on, maybe he might be able to store more things and may be able to do it without needing to close his eyes. Or even just get really tricksy with it, where he only uses one at a time, in case if he needs to see. So, always having one hand over his eye, or even eye patches, or even just closing his eyes or something.
Is that like reverse Cyclops, where he just generates dimensional pockets from his eyes from the punch dimension?
I guess you could say so. Yeah, so that pretty much the same concept. Yeah, so it's
reversed. Instead of things coming out, you're shoving stuff in.
I mean, it's still to be honest, it's still quite an interesting idea, because one particular idea that I got for this is something similar to. They use this in one particular thing in Goblin Slayer, where he gets a teleport scroll, and it's set up between the scroll that he has and another scroll that was placed somewhere else, and he asked this really powerful wizard for her to place this teleport scroll, this other teleport scroll, at the bottom of the ocean. And she was like, yeah, he's really weird, I don't know why he does that. At a later point, he then uses it, and the sheer pressure of the water coming out of the scroll kills an entire area of all these monsters.
Whoa.
And so I was just thinking, technically, if you had that ability, you could, defensively, you could swallow up other people's attacks, and then just later on spit them out, so that then you can fire back someone's attacks. But even more, you could actually just use it to, soak up, pardon the pun, elements like water, mud, or anything, and then suddenly it just juts out as a projectile-based attack, or even just to create the very thing that you need. I mean, imagine if you're with a Terrakinetic and they don't have any earth to manipulate. You could just suck up a couple of boulders and just be like, alright, that's okay, we're good to go, although I do have to close my left eye and keep it closed for the next X amount of time.
So that would be great. It's sort of okay, you ready? And ready, and then you just flip the eye patch up, and then here's 10 tons of bricks for you, my lad. Knock yourself out.
I mean, that was a really crap Terrakinetic, unable to bring it with him. Why isn't he holding it with him? Why is he forcing you?
Yeah, fair
to
enough.
be half blind to carry stuff for him? What a prick!
Hey, could you?
Useless, gormless prick. Why would you have him on the team? You know what? You can go inside the eye patch and you can carry everything. Why don't you?
Oh my gosh! What?
Yeah. I'm not going to take that back. Come at me, bro.
No, that's fair enough. That is fair enough. Yeah. But I think another particular thing that can actually be kind of interesting to this particular ability is that, the character could try to keep using this power to press himself or push himself by obviously trying to keep storing up bigger things or keep storing up multiple things at a time, trying to have it that he keeps trying to, focus a lot whilst he has his eyes open to try and see if there's a way that he can keep the pocket dimensions closed even without his eyelids closed, so that he can try and see if he can see maybe a particular big defining character moment for him could actually be him doing that, or even just coming up with some kind of really tricksy style of fighting. Another particular thing that would be kind of weird is that if the power itself also allows him to do some really weird and scary things. Another particular thing that would be really cool is if someone's trying to stab him in the eye, and he just suddenly opens it at the exact moment, then suddenly the knife gets swallowed.
Just whoa! That would actually. Yeah, I was about to say that actually, because if they somehow managed to slice his eyelid, that would be a really horrible. That would be a really horrible thing, because not only is he injured, also he can't necessarily close his eye after that. If he has problems controlling it while it's not quite closed and not quite open, then that's just going to be a huge challenge for him. That's just
black hole window man.
Yeah, I don't know. That was my idea. I don't know if that helps you.
That one actually. I like that one a lot.
I have thought of two. One of them being the one I'd probably choose. One of them being one that if I was in a superpowered world, I would have. One I'd actually have would be like subtitle mode. Or like I could just whenever someone's talking to me, I could see what they're saying with subtitles. And like
Okay.
also kind of like almost like like that Sherlock Holmes thing, like annotation mode.
I'd still argue
Either-
that that's adaptive mind.
Then subtitle mode would be the one I'd have, so I could see people speaking subtitles in real life.
Okay, here's the question, Sam. When you close your eyes but you still hear what people are saying, what happens?
Still see subtitles. It just be against my the blackness in your eyes.
Okay, alright, yeah, alright. No, I'll let it happen. Yeah.
The more sort of hard one would be, like the portal gun in Portal. Or like each eye opens a different portal when you wink.
You could be like a chameleon as well, where you just sort of like put your eyes over to the one side and you have one at one side of the room and the other. You basically have to give yourself a lazy eye.
Yeah. No, it was like, just like, wink, portal, turn around, wink, portal.
There's one downside to your subtitle ability, though. Like, if someone, like, basically, like, they'd still be on all the time, right? If someone, like, just, like, starts whispering, like, in the next room, would the subtitles wake you up?
Okay,
it'd be like, when you see like whispering in like some video games where it's just like it's not bright white, it's like a dull kind of gray in the background. It's like to show what they're whispering, it's very small, very kind of like nondescript, very gray.
I'd say
opposed to bright white, like when I'm talking to you.
I'd say to add some intrigue to it, maybe at first the character that has this power can't not see millions of dialogue going on within a specific vicinity of him because all the people around him who are talking, so it's within earshot. But later on, he can then focus by staring at one particular person or multiple people and then only getting their specific dialogue. So it's based off of vision rather than audio. And then when he closes his eyes, as long as he's stared at that person, just before he closes his eyes, he can then see the subtitles of only that person's conversation.
It's just whenever there's a big loud people in the room, it's just like his entire eyesight just filled with words.
You know what? Only for the sake of...
It says like waitress. It just was like waitress, like they call it like 2 commas. Not absolute colon, like waitress colon. Would you like another beer with that? And like 5 or 6 other people. Like, would you like da 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 da? No, I'm trying to listen to my mum. Where's mum on this list here? On this list of subtitles? God damn it! Subtitles.
It would especially be funny because that you didn't necessarily specify that you know any like languages and stuff. So it could be like whenever like someone with a foreign language enters in, it just like Spanish dialogue.
That would be great. That would just
you know what would be great though? At the very least, that would be like in brackets, so I wouldn't be able to have to. So if that's someone speaking in the room, at least they could say, "Okay, that." No, it's the one with actual words beside it. That's who I'm talking to. Just Spanish brackets.
It just suddenly like someone looks at you and stares at you, and it just says visible confusion.
Yes. That's to be honest, that's what I'd want in real life.
Okay.
That power sounds like a nightmare, but I would love to see someone with that power that has
dude, like that,
so much
that
comedy
is so
potential.
good. That is so funny. Especially considering
probably have to be like tuning. Like retune it, you like focus. No, I don't want any of these ones. That's the one I want.
You could do this with Ocular Powers and Adaptive Mind, or actually have it that Adaptive Mind has a unique attribute based on it affects specifically your eyes.
Subtitles.
Yeah, where it just gives you subtitles of all the different information. If you got Omnilinguist, after you've been within an area where other people are only talking a different language that you don't understand, eventually your eyes are tuned to it, so you can actually now read it as it's translated for you.
Yeah, it's like in those video games sometimes where it's like they show like whenever they're trying to do like those communicators where it shows like the actual language, like "Donde está," and then it shows like transforms it into English.
Yeah.
So yeah, like those universal translators. Like, "Donde está da 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 da? Would you like some coffee?"
Even better, like you You could be like, you're just sort of sitting in absolute silence, and then occasionally it'll become with silence. Sound of silence.
I like the
Music
idea of
playing
like
in background.
I like the idea of like you only just slightly hear, like just something like out of someone's very leaky headphone, like and you're like, what is that? And then suddenly, all of a sudden, it just comes up with like just a thing. Mode steps make me feel good. Like, what? Where's that coming from? And then you just suddenly look over and you just see only one person with a pair of headphones that are rather leaky, and they're obviously listening to it. But you're like, but all I heard was like 2 bits of the broken beat.
To be honest, I would love that part if I could tell what every song is I listen to in subtitle mode.
That actually,
what is that song? Subtitle mode. Oh, this is by the Black Eyed Peas.
Well, now we have a clear cut. Well, I guess
This is Dancing in the Moonlight by the Nolans. Thank you, subtitle mode.
I guess that's pretty much just it then, isn't it? I think that's.
I was going to talk about a power that I actually did make but didn't get to try. Can I talk about that just for a second with the Ocular Powers?
Yeah, sure. Is this the like the opposite one where all of the different vision modes are shot out of your eyes?
Yeah, and I was choosing specifically, like, it would be, like the old Superman cartoons where he would project on a wall and it would be like the X-ray on the wall that everybody could see, but also I could project holograms from my mind, which I thought was a cool ability. That's not necessarily an ocular power, but I've kind of pinched it from Steven Universe, where they have the ability to project, holograms and images of things that they remember and they can visualize, and they can even do like actual light beams, just like as in a torchlight and stuff through this. And it's not necessarily an eye power, but that was kind of how I visualized it. So instead of just seeing it, in your mind, the X-ray, it would be projected out so everyone could see it.
Yeah.
And that was cool. I would still like to try that at some point, but in the future.
Yeah, fair enough. No,
I'm just imagining you like a walking projector. Just you turn your eyes like the thing, and then light just comes out of them. No, turn the volume up. I want to watch Casablanca.
I think what would be brilliant is that like every now and again your character just starts making the noise of like the tape going round in the reels.
Yeah, my eyes would just sort of like go like with those like the reels on a videotape, just round and round and round.
Imagine trying to
every
watch
time
a movie,
you blink,
every
the
5
movie
seconds
just suddenly
blink.
disappears for a second.
Oh, come on, saying, well, guys, my eyes hurt. So stop blinking. I want to know the end.
I want to begin to cry. The film just loses focus. This is hard.
Sorry, guys, dry eye. Yeah, I think that is absolutely everything that we've covered, because now we are just sort of like going off on the last dregs of this. But I still think there's a few bits and pieces to sort of touch on this. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. That was and has been Ocular Powers. If you agreed with us or disagreed with us, like and or subscribe, or dislike and subscribe. Never not subscribe. Always subscribe. But yes, if you guys...
Or don't do anything but share and subscribe.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But if you guys do believe that you actually have a different opinion about any of the things that we've spoken about, definitely hit us up in the comments below. And as always, have a good night, because tonight is the night where it all goes horribly wrong. As if you've been watching any of my playthroughs, I'm currently still playing alongside Sam and Cowboy in Dark Souls 3. So, thank you very much, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
See you in the future.
Ciao, ciao, for now.